Hi, my name is Reuben. In this series of videos, I walk you through the sample Pool Doctors application that I developed for the introduction of Gennaro Mobile. In this video, I'm going to look at the subject of error handling. Now, what do I mean by error handling? Another name is exception handling. Basically, it's what to do, what we want the application to do if something bad happens, something unexpected happens. So if I'm running the application, now of course my application isn't going to fall over, so in my application I've actually put a little test mechanism to verify what happens. So in my settings and then force error, what I've actually got my code to do, and I'll show you in a minute, is just do a 1 divided by 0. But an unexpected error has occurred. And so what we can then do, why we want this type of dialog to occur, is we just don't want the application to stop with nothing happening. We may want to get the user to report the error to us so that we can do something useful with it, or we may even want them to email us some form of log. So what we can do at the moment is view the log, and it's got all the errors I've tested with it over the time, but the last one is the appropriate one. An attempt was made to divide by 0. And then the program will stop at that point. So looking at the code behind that, so in the key things to note is at the top of every 4GL, you'll see that I'll have this function, which is defined as private, and it's called exception, and it just has one line: whenever any error, call serious_error. And you won't find any calls to this function. The reason for that is this line here is basically a compile time directive. So any line of code beneath here, the runtime runner will say, hey, if anything bad happens, I want to call this function. Okay, so we'll see that in every 4GL at the top. We'll find that function, and then it's going to say if anything bad happens, call this function. Now, the one exception where we won't see this at the top is in the main.4GL, and the reason for that is right at the top of the program, we haven't done any initialization for this error handling. So here's that line that says anything bad beneath here, call the function. But the line above it, we start an error log. What this does is starts writing, if an error occurs, writes some information about it to this particular file. So if we have a look inside lib_error, we'll see these functions: start_error log and serious error. So here's start_error log, and that's basically saying note the file name and then call the 4GL routine start log to start the log being written to that function. And then we've got our serious_error function. Now what that has is a little test to make sure we haven't come here already twice. Reason for that is if we don't want to get into an infinite loop, so we say, hey, if we've been here already, something really bad has happened, and just stop the program straight away. Otherwise, we come down here, and what I've got the code doing is displaying a little dialog that says an unexpected error has occurred, and giving the user the option of either exiting out or giving them the option to view the log. And the technique I use to view the log is to define a text variable, and then I locate it in that error log file name. And then I can simply call my dialog routine to view the error log. So that's a kind of neat handy trick using the text variable and the locate instruction. We can read a file into a variable, and then very easily display it as if it was a string. Okay, so for production grade applications, I'd normally recommend a function of this nature so that you can trap errors as they occur, display a nice error dialog to the user, and then have the program exit gracefully rather than just go into a black screen. Now, what I should also show you is just how I force that error to occur. So in splash.4gl, I've got on action force error, and then I simply do a display 1 divided by 0, and then that's enough. That divide by 0 is the runtime exception is triggered and causes the program to stop. Okay, so that's a little introduction to the subject of error handling, but I would definitely recommend that in a production grade function, you have a function of this production grade application, you have a function of this nature, so you can display a nice error message before your program exits if something unexpected occurs.